Well, everybody. That was absolutely ridiculous. All right. We still continue to wait for Paolo, who will be joining me. But for the meantime, I will go through headlines as we lead up and build up of covering what exactly the hell happened yesterday with Juventus and Thiago Motta. You could see there in the header, in the thumbnail for the show, Champions League, a complete and utter failure. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Okay? Now, top four? How confident are we? Well, we're going to cover it all together today. Want to remind everybody that's tuning in on your audio outlets, what the hell are you waiting for? Get over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel now. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. And please, everybody, take a second to like the video before we get into all of this. And yeah, there's just so much to go with this, so much to say as far as what actually is happening right now with this Juventus. And Thiago Motta, for me, as you could see, exposed. Motta was exposed. Juve getting bounced in Champions League. We'll go through some of the news headlines here. And essentially, not as bad as initially thought with Renato Vega, who obviously got injured yesterday's game very early on, which caused some substitutions to come in immediately. But yeah, there were some fears there. It is just a muscular issue. They're going to take a look at it. He's definitely going to be out for the weekend. Could potentially be out for the Coppa Italia match as well. We'll have eyes on that. As far as everything else that's coming out in the news, it continues to be this push that we are going after Lookman. And then when it comes to the man next to me for now, Thiago Motta, who after yesterday, I might be calling Thiago Mozza, because he dished out one big Mozza ball. All right, not Motta ball, one big Mozza ball. That was disastrous from his perspective, okay? And when you're ranking coaches, when you're talking about things we've talked about all season, lack of influence from the sideline affecting everything that goes on the pitch, and we may have something bigger going on, all right? And we're going to tackle it all right now. Big shout out to everybody that's in the chat right now. You guys have been going at it for a while. I could see here in the chat there's a ton that we're going to get to, we're going to cover, all right? But big shout out to all of you making it in here. And big shout out to Alex P, who gifted 5 AJC memberships on a live, not yesterday's pre-match, but the post-match from the Inter Derby d'Italia. Big shout out there. And for anybody that has received an AJC membership, if you want to get in the private chat, reach out. Let's hook you up. Okay, now let's get into this thing and talk about, first off, some of the feelings in general coming from this matchup, because we always ask the question and we always say, Juventini, you know, let us know where you're at. Where are you at when it comes to this game? And we just get some of the thoughts here. A lot of it, obviously, you could tell how it went with emotions running high, everybody running hot. Okay, but nonetheless, we'll fire away, because this is real Juventini with real takes, real actual reactions, and we're going to just go through it. What'd you think? Let it fly. That calling off subs after Weah goal was the turning point. As bad as Theo's red for Milan, I think if he made those subs, we would have had a better chance to kill this thing off. Weah, Tigre, McKennie, Nico were giving it all. Didi drops in here saying super inexperienced, forcing stuff and continuing or insisting on cope minors, especially him with flu and not fit, has all the tools to succeed but very stubborn. Burned Cambiaso, needs to adapt to more formation options. This loss is solely Thiago Motta's fault. Hannah coming in here, a collection of all our bad habits throughout the season, and it feels like no one is that surprised. Motta still has no clue how to get the best out of a single player, especially in attacking areas of the pitch, which was meant to be his strength as a manager. In the fewest words, Serie A has lost itself. They've forgotten how to play league finals, and they've lost their creativity. Always with the headhunting and conforming with one goal advantage. Sad and frustrating at the same time. Another one says, just watching the highlight, Gatti should go. Kelly is the worst signing. Another one saying, bro, I'm dying here. I don't even have nicotine anymore. And I'm hearing Motta excuses. Cope had fever for real. I'm not good right now. Thuram not starting was insane. And it goes on and on and on like that. But a couple of really good ones in there. Speaking to Thiago Motta. Speaking to this whole influence, what he's doing, what he's bringing, and we're going to get into it all right now. And just right on time, we've got our guy, Paolo, coming in here, and here we go. Paolo, my God, I wish it was a victory show, but I'm happy you're here nonetheless.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. We're live. We're ready to rock. I've been on here just giving everybody the news headlines. We are about to get into this game. So without further ado, let's get into it, okay? Lineup was Di Gregorio, Weah, Gatti, Vega, Kelly. Cope Miners, Locatelli with your pivots. Chico, McKennie, Gonzalez, and Kolomuani up front to start. Going into this one at the pregame, we just talked about the obvious, about maybe getting someone else in there for Kelly and maybe bringing on a playmaker up top, seeing how we were going to work this. You had 4 midfielders. He did start 3, but I mean, it was still should have been, and again, we use that famous word, should have been enough to get the job done, but there were some circumstances that changed everything through the game. So rather than spend a bunch of time, I think that starting lineup, Paolo, let's get into it, because one of the immediate things, PSV started off getting after it like immediately, and we had to weather a storm at the start, but I thought we managed well. There. Then you have the early injury about 12 minutes into Renato Vega, and Vega goes down. He can't continue. He needs to leave. Cambiaso comes in, and Kelly is moved in to center back. So right there, we're going to freeze and just say, what did you think of that particular decision at that moment in time?
Bringing Cambiaso in, if he can play, you need him. Yeah, he was kind of injured. He hadn't played a lot, but you had little choice unless you put McKennie on that left side and put someone else in the middle. Kelly is who he is, guys. We had those worries. I don't know what the options were. Vega going down was tough. It was tough. We couldn't afford that, and it happened, and it changed the game.
Yeah, I was immediately thinking to drop Locatelli back and take Kelly off, move McKennie to left back, and actually get somebody else in there. I don't know if I would have went immediately to Thuram, because then all your midfielders are out there on the pitch, and if something happens there, you don't have another midfielder coming in there. In the end, we do end up using Cambiaso in the midfield later on, but it was something that kind of crossed my mind. But I can't get too mad about that one. And to be honest, Kelly in the first half, when he went in there and covered, wasn't bad in the first half. And I think he actually looked better than at left back. But the second half, a little bit of sloppiness, started to lose any kind of momentum gained in the first half. But yeah, it's a tough one there. Nonetheless, this is one of the decisions immediately facing Motta, and that's where he went. If you talk about the first half, honestly, it was actually decent from Juventus, I thought. We split opportunities with them. 7 attempts for us, 6 for them, or they had no shots on target. They were doing well, but we also had moments, opportunities to go at them. One thing that's consistent that we talk about a ton is this lack of efficiency in attack and being effective and wasting a lot of sequences. And even in transition, slowing ourselves down and not being able to really put opposition under. These are all the same things I felt in the first half, but you come out of it 0-0. Not really a whole lot of opportunities to talk about here. I think our best opportunity came at the foot of Cambiaso with a shot that took a deflection that almost fooled Benitez, but not really. That's really it. For them, like I said, no shots on target. Pressure, waves here and there, but nothing really substantial. So I will say this, though. Going into the second half, I said, and literally everyone I was talking to that game, the tweets, I said, get ready, because now you have PSV with nothing to lose and a second half, and they are going to go after it. The push will be way more significant than the first half. Get ready. And this is what pisses me off, because you know it's coming and everything is still remaining the same. I said you might have to stack the midfield. You might have to pull Thuram in because the effectiveness of the other guys isn't really taking things over. But get yourself ready. Maybe you stack the midfield and you go flat three. But what were you thinking at half, Paulo?
I knew we'd be in trouble, but we pulled off the first half to the extent that if we could have at least maintained the things we were doing right in the first half, we could probably hold for the second half. I think you probably want to make adjustments. We haven't been able to defend leads. The possession that we had showed earlier in the season, we weren't able to harness much in the first half. That's something you can try and harness in the second half. Our shape and our form has always been an issue this year, with holes and players moving out of position. And when things started to change in the second half, we fell into issues and game management and decision making from the players and the coaches that has impacted us all year, and it started to unravel right there. So I felt optimistic for the second half if we can play the same way, but it was a matter of time if those things would come up, and they started to come up. Yeah. And we didn't have an answer.
And like I say, if you know something's coming, they're going to be gunning. Like, how are you unprepared? Like, we were seemingly unprepared. We didn't match the level of contest at all. Second half, like the fight, we were second place to a lot of balls, a lot of duels. I could think of 3 guys, maybe 4 guys that had the right level of compete in them, and that's just not good enough. And something's got to be sorted. So we get to the second half. We don't have to wait long for them to strike, 52nd minute. And to be honest, fair play on this goal because there's not a lot of room. Like, Noah Lang cuts in centrally. We backed off. Instead of keeping pressure on the ball carrier, we did back off, dropped off positionally. But he makes a great through ball to Perisic in a tight window. And Perisic takes it on the one touch and then has a hit. And it's a great hit. Di Gregorio's not stopping that. So fair play to them on that goal. And now you gotta get up. You gotta wake up. You gotta snap out of this. And again, the efficiency, the effectiveness, I felt you needed a change with Chico Conceição. When it reached 60, I was like, make the change. Make the change. I saw way too much wasteful play in Chico's game, and it was hurting us. It became to the point where it's hurting us. Even Nico was not good. You know who carries the highest efficiency and effective rate per attacking scenarios? It's the guy on your bench, Kenan Yildiz. He actually carries that statistic around with him this season. It's wild to me.
There were a lot of holes, Bert, and in the first half, we managed to pass our way out of issues, stay compact enough that we were able to help each other. Guys were going to each other and helping deal with the press, deal with the aggression PSV came with and had to come with in order to salvage their Champions League. And in the second half, the holes started to get larger. The spaces got larger. Guys weren't helping each other out. Guys weren't available for passes. We were losing the ball. We weren't completing passes. We weren't tidily getting out of trouble. And the gaps opened up. And
Yeah.
we lost possession. And guys were trying to do things on their own, which is, again, not new.
Yeah. Now, he has substitutions getting ready after that goal. Okay. He waits. We do find an equalizer. It's an absolute thunderbolt from Weah. Fair
Beautiful.
play to him, because he was one of those few guys I said had the right level of compete. Timothy Weah was one of them. Fair play to him. He continues a good run of form. Fantastic strike. You found yourself 1-1. I immediately said, make your changes. Get your fresh legs. And you know what? It sets the tone. It sets the tone for your team. It sets the tone for the opposition too. If you go 1-1 and you bring in Keenan Yildiz, who carries our most effective efficiency rate in attack, who would obviously give them problems when Nico isn't, and to be fair, Chico isn't either. You get that guy on there and it sets a tone. It means something to your team. And you hear time and time again players that talk about changes and what it means. We are 1 week removed from Cesc Fabregas talking about his coaching things. We've heard Xabi Alonso talk about it. And they say the same thing. Fabregas just said it a week ago or a week and a half ago, 2 weeks, whatever the hell it was. And he says, if you pull a defender, you make a defender change at a certain moment in a game, it automatically tells your team and transmits that you want to defend and you want to clamp down. So if you want to fight that as a manager, you substitute a player that holds certain traits and abilities that lead them to believe that we still want to push. Yildiz at that moment probably would have been a symbol of doing that. And your midfield needed a fresh set of legs. Thuram should have come in immediately after that strike, in my opinion.
Going into this game, you have to have a shutdown play. You have to have, like, it's like a penalty kill in hockey is the best thing I can compare it to. But you are in a situation, you activate your play with your certain players, and everybody shifts and adopts to whatever the new strategy is. You can do that by bringing on, like you're saying, the right players at the right time. And the mentality and the physicality, the positioning, everything changes in the mindset of the players. You go into shutdown. Going into a game like this, you have to have your shutdown game ready because you're leading the game going in. You're going in with the lead. And if you lose it, but then you get it back, even more reason than to shut it down. But we haven't shut anything down all year.
He essentially second-guessed himself. He waited. And he even said that. He said once we went 1-1, there are moments you need to wait and you need to read the game. Yeah, read the game. I've been watching you read the fucking game all season, man. And it hasn't looked good. Now, anyways, he waits. Well, 73rd minute, PSV back at us. De Jong's on it. He actually misses his swipe at it. It bounces through, and that's when Saibera actually smacks it home. And there you go. And there you go. So now you're behind the 8 ball again, okay? Leveled up, all leveled up. 77th minute, you get your subs. Thuram for Locatelli, Yildiz for Conceição, Savona for Cope Miners. And we go again to Savona as a left back on the left side and a player who hasn't been 100% fit. And you take out both of your holding midfielders in the process. I didn't understand both Luca and Cope Miners coming out. I would have definitely kept one with Thuram. It probably would have been Locatelli. I would have went Locatelli and Thuram. I question this, just all of it. I again with this Savona thing on the left side, and then both of those guys, I had serious questions. What did you think of those those substitutions at the 77th minute. Yildiz for Conceição. A lot were saying, look, Conceição got absolutely ripped for the game, but Nico Gonzalez was bad too. And they said, well, he was fighting. Well, guess what? That's a bare fucking minimum. And that we need to stop also boosting that like it's half the job or whatnot. Like, that's a bare minimum. Everybody's got to do that. And if somebody isn't doing that, then sit on the bench for the rest of the year. I don't care. But what do you think of those 3 subs?
It's troubling. I don't question the character and the determination of, I don't think anybody on our team, even Dusan to an extent. There were guys who were tired all over the field. McKennie's a great leader. He's very smart, and he can do the little things at the most important moments that help you, but his legs were tired. Nico was hustling, but he was tired. He was second to a ball. He was floating out of position. When he runs around and gets tired, bigger holes open up. That Savona Stardust, and I love Savona, but that Stardust on that poor kid is out. He's ran out.
Yeah.
And you put him in again a position to fail, where he's doing his damn best, and he's not capable. He's not physically 100%. He doesn't have the experience. And when he was at his best, it was early on when you had a full lineup, a more complete lineup, and he was your weakest link. And that's a problem that everybody can deal with, including him. So bringing him on, there were a lot of tired legs, and I don't think taking out your midfield is going to help strategically. And there were other guys you could have subbed out who were more tired, and you didn't need up high, like Nico, like maybe even McKennie at that point.
And again, this whole Chico frustration thing that we all share with this lack of efficiency and getting into moments where he just wastes moments after moment after moment after moment and sequence after sequence. At what point does a coach's influence play in and say, look, man, I need you to move the ball?
2 months ago.
Yeah. Like,
this is not new.
It's ridiculous to hear the same thing over and over and be like, so at what point do you even have a coach? What do you even have a coach for? You could see that it's been an issue for a while that we've all said, like, he needs to make his decisions quicker. He needs to move the ball. And there was sequences in that first half where he did it time and time again. So out of the second half, I would expect it to be cleaner, and it was not. So while I see this talk about work rate and Nico staying on as opposed to Chico, he still carries way more danger than Nico does. So if Yildiz is coming on, I don't know if it's 100% for Conceição despite the struggles that he had. But I was calling for Chico to be subbed. So I'm fine with it overall. But this is something that needs to get sorted out, and it's not. The same frustrations across the board are showing up. Whether you want to talk about work rate, it's not shared amongst all. Yeah, I'm not arguing that, but that's a fucking bare minimum. So if he can't get that from the guys, that's a failure there. He can't clean up guys' games. Guys have issues that keep creeping up, and they just keep doing it, and he doesn't change anything, and it keeps happening. So what are we doing here? Do we have anybody there? Do we have anybody there in charge? It's crazy. Nonetheless, these are the changes we get. We continue on. 98th minute, a cross that falls to the back post as we hit extra time here, obviously. And then it bobbles around as it's put in, and Gatti puts his foot out to stop it from going across goal, which he got absolutely destroyed for by the fan base. But as a defender, you do that. You don't want the ball going across goal. Nonetheless, it's bobbled with Di Gregorio. It falls right out front to Flamenco, who puts it home. And right from there, they go into shutdown mode, and we can't do it. We can't do it. We're done. Kolo Muani and Cambiaso make way for Imbangula and Vlahovic. Do we absolutely have to always say goodbye to Kolo Muani when Vlahovic comes on? Can Kolo Muani not continue from the wing? He could play anywhere across the top. This is also another option he had earlier on in the game, maybe to help if you want to get some crosses in, if you're getting overrun. And this is another thing. We continue to struggle against teams when they run us hard. Our game is too slow. It is what it is. Nonetheless, there was almost an opportunity where Vlahovic connected. It hit the post, and that was it for us. That was it for us. It's fino alla fine, but I said it. I don't see it, and I'm hoping they surprise me. I didn't think they were going to overcome it. And I hate to say that. That's the feeling I got. It just looked scattered and frantic for the entire second half. That second half was a disaster. You come out with 3 attempts to their 17, you have failed colossally.
Everything fell apart at that point. Everything had fallen apart. You can make the changes you want. You've lost the game already, somewhat mentally. Physically, a lot of your guys are done. Your shape, again, is always too wide, too spread out. Lots of holes, no one helping out each other. There's a point where Nico's chipping a ball past a guy and chasing it. There's Yildiz trying to hold on to a ball at a sideline with 3 guys around him. These are players who are not giving up. These are players who are trying. But your system is failing you. Your teammates are not there bailing you out. They're not available to receive the ball. You're too slow. You're putting each other in individual moments where individuals, once again, have to try and find one miraculous self-generated opportunity to save the club, to save the day, and it doesn't come off. And it's almost like we had no way of winning unless one of these moments magically happened.
Yeah.
And PSV knew it. They smelt it. They tasted it. It was there. It was on the field. When you're watching, you see it from our point of view as a viewer on the TV screen, all the open spaces, the individuals just pegged into spots.
So, and where do we go from here? I mean, if I'm looking at this, my summary was really, really simple. This is a failure. This is a complete failure. Champions League in general has been a complete failure when you factor in the games like Bruges, Stuttgart, Lille. I mean, we had an opportunity to get in top 8. You go into a playoff against PSV, fair play to them and their home record or whatnot, but this is the first time in Juve's history we've been bounced in Champions League after winning the first leg. And I don't know, I'm running low on fucking excuses, everybody. Like, I just don't have them. I don't hold them to this team. Motta was exposed. The inexperience showed big time. He became frantic. He second-guessed himself. He admitted to doing that. He was out of sorts, and it trickled down into the team. Because ultimately, your team is a reflection of your manager. You want attitude, you want balls, you want this approach. He ain't giving them the vibes. And there's a reason that this team is Jekyll and Hyde, not from match to match, but from half to half. Lack of game planning, lack of management, mismanagement of games. It hasn't been up to it. Factor on top of that, a young roster, a team that lacks experience. They're all learning on the fly. And you can't have it like that. There has to be something has to give. You want to go young, inexperienced coach? Well, have some experienced guys on the roster. Have something. It can't all be like this.
I mentioned to you in the chat, was it last night, that this was kind of like a metaphor for our whole season. All the issues of our whole season showed up in one game. And can I give you a quick list here? New squad, young squad, new coach, young coach, new system, new project, thin squad, not losing, not winning. Poor starts, poor finishes, can't score, can't defend, can't hold leads, players out of position, odd subs, game management, late subs. Strange lineups, repeated lineups. Winning isn't everything. 4th place is the goal. Beating good teams, weak versus weaker teams, chaotic play, possession, no possession. Young overperforming, big signings underperforming. Style of play, no style of play. Chemistry, no chemistry. Drama, goals against from crosses, individual players saving with individual performances. Sporting director not addressing the fans, the organization not addressing the fans, sustainability, leadership issues, Juve standard, God. There is a long list of things that are symptomatic of our results this season. And when I thought about it, the game, the season, looking at fan comments and the excuses, the explanations, the misunderstandings, it's that long list. And the list is very long. And it's all these things. And I don't even know where to start.
Well,
but
it
there's your
sucks
list.
because honestly, even in the wins, even when we try to get up and we try to back this team, it's like we know in the back of our minds that it's been unconvincing. It's all been unconvincing. Motta has been unconvincing. That's the reality. Now, this one, okay, we can concede. And it's 11 million euros we won't see. That management really wanted to see. But you know what? Top four is going to be a dogfight. And there are no guarantees around this team. It is half to half, not even game to game, everybody. It is literally half to half to find out what Juve we're getting. So buckle up, because this ride's not over. It's unbelievable. So Thiago Motta, when it comes to this, another issue that I have in this whole thing is this. When he spoke of McKennie, he had these comments that he had made about the player. And this is how he sees top level players. Players that can play anywhere on the pitch, that can do whatever they're asked and everything. I gotta say, there comes a time when maybe even he is starting to believe this shit that everybody can just go everywhere, and maybe that's why he got into so much trouble yesterday with these decisions, because a jack of all trades but master of none comes to mind with these guys that are going everywhere. It's still, when you don't have the fundamentals behind your game and you don't have everything locked in, and we are at February 20th, for God's sakes. So the fact that we even have to say that is just ridiculous on its own accord. But nonetheless, when you don't have that even locked in and you're going rogue with guys in positions all over the place, eventually it's going to bite you in your ass, and just keep it simple. But we're all over the place. We're all over the place. And to be honest, I don't know. I don't know if it will change or get better, because like I said, it's not just Motta. I mean, you just can't have all of this piled on. You cannot have, in my opinion, a young, inexperienced team and a coach that's trying to learn on the fly as well. It's a recipe for exactly what we've gotten all season. So in the grand scheme of things, should we be surprised? Probably not. Frustrated? Absolutely. But surprised? I don't think so. I don't think so.
You can't have all those issues I listed happening at once over several months. You can have a McKennie and manage that one thing, that one little magical player that could do so many things. You can have a Savona in the right situation, hold the fort at right. You can have Kelly come in and back up somebody, or Gatti come in and back up somebody when you're thin due to injury. But you can't have that long list of issues and have those individual elements to kind of work with. You have to have otherwise a really strong style, setup, mentality, keeping it simple, for example, whatever it is. And then you finesse or you tweak these one or two things that are kind of, a bit of a wild card for you, or risk, or whatever it is. You manage certain elements of risk. We have way too many things going on, and they haven't all been solved. And damn Motta and Giuntoli, both of them, for not coming out at the beginning of the season and saying it's going to be an up and down season. We're going to win no matter what. We're going to do everything we can because Juve, you have to win. We got new system, new players, new team. There's going to be ups and downs, fans.
Yeah.
There's going to be ups and downs, but come with us for the ride. But there was no setup to the fan base as to really what to expect, so we can manage with them things that come up. But this list is too long, and it hasn't been addressed.
And not to pick on Aaron here, but this is just his comment. It already has improved. Juventus have won the last, 4 or 5 games. That's a massive improvement. They are unconvincing, even in victory. And we know that. We celebrated the Derby d'Italia because we should. We should always. And I still give those guys one of these, okay? Every time. But we know in the back of our minds that that first half could have easily been a destruction the other way. That's the reality. And that's what we're talking about. The cracks run deep. We're going to get into the cracks, so to speak, at Juventus. But Motta.
And I love the wins, Bert. Like, I'm happy that we have
absolutely
the wins, right? But you can't go to the well all the time. Like, there's wins we've had this year that we had no business winning. We had an own goal against Lazio or whatever it was. Like, the wins are good, but if you look at what you see on the field, game in and game out, that's unsustainable. That's what unsustainability looks like.
You have a big chunk of points that we have lost from winning positions. This is a war that was lost from a winning position,
which is not new.
This keeps happening. And a lot of it falls back on Motta and decisions that he's making. Now, and he put himself in that spot. The heat comes with the seat, everybody. The heat comes with the seat. I didn't choose his career. He did. That's the way it is. Now, fire him immediately. Do we need to fire him immediately? Some fans are saying, get him out right now. We've seen it in the chat here. Some have said 4 months ago, Thiago Motta should have been fired. Do you fire him immediately?
You're asking me? Good thing you're not asking me yesterday. I've struggled with believing in what he can bring to this organization. I've said it from the beginning. Show me. Show me. This was 3 months ago. I'm saying show me. The drama, the potential drama of getting rid of him now, I'm weighing out what that might mean, what it might mean for the summer, what it might mean in salvaging the 4th spot, whether it would be helpful or whether it would be even worse. And if we can get to the summer with him and get that 4th spot, I don't think anything's going to change. But if we can get the 4th spot, do we deal with this kind of shit in the summer or do we blow it up now? These are his players. Either the players are shit, they're not getting his system, or we've overrated them, or they're not good enough, or it's just injuries. I mean, I don't want to go through that list again, but so I'm not sure. But if you're saying that he's not good enough for us and not good enough for these players, I think you've got a case. I haven't been convinced. I'm not yet.
Yeah.
I don't like
if I think about this,
I don't like not believing.
Yeah. I see a comment here from Joe Tellerico saying that we hold ourselves to a higher standard. We can't be another Milan or United. But the standards argument could go the other way because what we're seeing should be below our standards on the pitch. He's in the hot seat. And again, I cannot stress to all of you enough, top 4 is not a guarantee. There is no 5th place to save him like Bologna with this great qualification season he had with them. We have to make it in there. This one, you could concede. Top 4? No. I'm sorry. That ain't happening. You've got to make it in top 4. Now, when we talk about this guy firing now, what immediately jumps in my mind is nothing is a guarantee. So even getting in a change, will it get better? What are we doing here? Who are you pulling in? Who is the guy you're pulling in? Is that guy going to want some type of commitment for at least like a trial run of a year and a half or something. Like, what are we doing? If it's interim, who is it? Toto the bus driver? I'm not far off from going to that point, but I'm not there quite yet. I always said, if top 4 becomes like a serious concern, then you go for it and you make that cut.
How many games are left, Bert? When is that concern?
Well, we've got 13 league games remaining.
So
we're holding down the 4th spot right now. So this is my next point. The level of concern is higher for some than it is others. Right now, I don't know. Okay, we're not factoring in Europa and conference because we're talking about the actual financial issues that come from that. There's a significant drop-off in prize money with those competitions. Juve is banking on Champions League, not Europa, and definitely not Conference League. So that's why it's top 4. It's Champions League qualification.
I will say this though, Bert, and I agree. From a whole principle perspective, I agree. But if you were to have to settle for Europa, let's say, whether Motta stays or not, Europa does bring a chunk of money. You do have a chance to win Europa. Winning Europa does give you automatic Champions League qualification. So I'm not saying it means Motta gets to keep his job and have a go at the Europa League next year. I'm saying there's some salvageability from that opportunity as unacceptable in principle as
it's better than being in 7th or 8th or whatever. Absolutely. But it doesn't keep him his
talk
job,
about that.
Is what I'm saying. Yeah. So if anyone's making the inclination that, well, we'd still be in European play. No, he's gone. Top 4.
And the money is different. And
some feel that, hey, if there is a bright spot, this team, get them out of another competition, let them focus on the league, and it offers that extra bit of rest from the extra 2 games that would have been jammed in a month of March, etc. Do we trust that they can even do that? From what I've seen in the games that have resulted after 1 week's rest for Juve, I still have the same level of concerns that I've had all along with this team. Okay? For Thiago Motta, all I'm going to say is this. When I talk about the players and I talk about the team and all of it being young, all of it learning on the fly, all I think to immediately is what I said a long time ago. And that was that everybody that said he must remain no matter what, I said no. Time is not a luxury you are afforded at Juventus. Marcello Lippi just literally said that days ago. And he's spot on. And I completely agree. And I've been saying it the entire time. This guy, let's keep him around. Let him finish the year and then assess what Juve's options are. But right now, it has been grossly underwhelming. Because the same things have not been corrected all season long. Okay? When we start looking at performances of our players, we're not going to dive into this ratings things too crazy, but this is coming out of yesterday's game. So, Di Gregorio, 7.1. Wea, 7.6. Gatti, 6.9. Vega obviously was eliminated through injury. 6.8 finishes Kelly. Cole Minor, 6.7. Locatelli, 6.5. Chico, a 6.7. McKennie, a 7.2. Gonzalez, a 7.3. Kolo Muani with a 5.4. Look, we're not going to dive into the ratings too crazy. All I got to say is Gatti showed a lot of fight and a lot of give a shits, but there was a mess in there. But my God, he was dealing with a lot. First time partnering up Kelly. back there. The midfield was getting completely overrun, but I appreciate the fight. Di Gregorio is that guy. That's all I got to say with this guy. He's that guy. I know that last goal looked bad from Gatti and even Di Gregorio not being able to corral whatnot, but he made some big saves. Could have got really ugly. Weah's been doing great, and he shows a lot of fight. McKennie fought. He shows that he gives a shit, but that only gets you so far too. Chico was a disaster. For me. Now, we're going to go into players' things because Chico comes up, and now everybody seems to have switched immediately, and they're saying 30 million, absolutely not. He isn't even close to being worth it. Do you agree or disagree, Paolo?
30 million's, it's about the right number. There's a great player there. And if he can get it in his head when to pass, and to pass sooner, and when to shoot, and when not to shoot, I think he can be very effective because there's a lot of magic in that player and a lot of ability. So Motta's not getting the best out of him and helping him be a better player. That's not helping this purchase or this prospect of 30.
Yeah.
I wouldn't pay more than 30, but I don't think it's the coach has to fix him.
I think there's a solid high amount of potential in this player. 30 million is a healthy amount. It's not outrageous.
You don't get much for 30.
You look at some of the players going for 30. This guy is definitely worth 30. Yeah. I'm not going to say absolutely not to buying him. I've not completely switched on him. I've been asking all along, can we get a coach that assists and gives some direction, helps us how do the same mistakes? How can you watch that game and not just maybe take an hour to sit down with him and just go over this and say, like, we really need to clean this up. What could you have done differently? Like, go through these things and do some actual coaching work. Stop training sessions if you have to when it happens and say, pop that goddamn head up.
Chico, if you don't put your head up and you don't pass sooner, I'm going to bench you.
Put a fucking weighted belt on him. Get a bungee strap to his fucking neck, and so that it holds it up when he's carrying the damn ball so he can actually see the field if he keeps dropping his head. Do something, but help this guy. I am not completely gone on Chico Conceição to the point where we do not buy him.
No.
Adeyemi? No. Lookman even? No. I'm done shopping at Fiorentina and Atalanta.
But even then, you bring these players in, Bert. What are they going to do once they arrive on the pitch and put on our shirt? You could bring goddamn Santa Claus in, but he still might not be able to deliver.
Gifts. At least we'd have sweet gifts. But we're talking about all this, and meanwhile, not even Chico, but now Yildiz. And we got into this a little bit yesterday on the pregame show, talking about him continuously now not being in the picture. And why is that? Today you hear reports and rumblings about issues. Nico Skira, it's not even a report. It's Nico Skira sharing his feelings that why wouldn't Yildiz be upset? Be upset about the situation and being out there. He's one of the most talented players on the team, etc. Now all of a sudden doesn't find him in the lineup. We asked questions yesterday and we're like, can we really make sense of this and him consistently being benched? Now all of a sudden in key matchups, other than maybe splitting, what my one guess is splitting the impact between Chico Conceição and himself and trying to give himself that spread as opposed to just firing all of them that's the only thing I can make sense of it. But we hear these rumblings from Nico Skira. It's just him sharing his content. It's not an actual statement that Yildiz is upset with the situation. But when it comes to this guy and being benched over these key matchups. How do you personally see it, and what do you think about it?
Okay. Motta's been very stubborn. He's been stubborn all year. So that's problem number one. He also hasn't shared his perspective even to kind of bullshit and say, Yield is, I'm saving him. He's just working through a couple of things. I don't want to burn him out. He's really important for the next few games. He's important in the second half. I want to work him in now that we've got depth. He doesn't even make excuses for why Yildiz is not starting. I've always thought you have to start your best lineup every game if you can. And I think Yildiz is a starter, and I think he's one of your best players. I put him on, especially in an important match, right away. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And I also think you don't stick him to the left side line and let him rot there either, and then pull him because he's not really getting much done out there.
Yeah. And it all ties together, because even those that said, well, Yildiz came in and to be fair, he did nothing. Yeah, but he hasn't started the games. And he's been coming in off the bench and everything. So would it have been differently if he got the run going up to it? Build some steam, build some momentum. I mean, ultimately, you still have a team that is pretty weak overall in the attack. You still have, no matter who the striker is, trying to pick off scraps. You have wingers trying to do everything on their own accord. You have midfielders that fade in and out of games like the wind. It's not coming together. The biggest thing that pissed me off the most too is him talking about all these things. Number one, I feel like he's completely lost. When you're telling me, it's like every time Cope Miners has to come off, he's got the flu or he had a fever like a night ago or something. Like we're gonna destroy you because you took Cope Miners, King Cope, out of the lineup. Like, nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit. And I'm not buying that he had this freaking flu all the time. He's got a flu or he's had a fever. Go get him checked out and send him into J-Med. Okay? I'm not buying this shit. Thuram, then it's cramps. Oh yeah, cramps, all this. Like, that's why we haven't seen him for 3 games or whatever. Cramps for 3 fucking games worth of time? That's like 2 weeks. What? What are we doing? What's going on here? Your best guys need to play. Period. In the most crucial matchups. And that goes back to my comment before about Grinta. Okay? Grinta and work rate and all this. Yeah, like, it only goes so far. It's half the battle, but it should be bare minimum. And while people want to say, yeah, there's players that aren't even doing that. Well, that's on their accord and also the coaches. But does Yildiz fall into that category? Does Thuram fall into that category? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So it still doesn't line up. And to be fair, Mitch, it's fucking February 20th, man. No shit. No shit, I'm going to be talking differently now. The performances are abysmal. I saw the question. How many guys look like they gave a shit yesterday in the lineup? I can't remember who asked it in the chat. How many players do you think showed that they give a shit yesterday?
I think they all did.
I was going to say,
and I think they were goddamn disorganized, like they've been disorganized all year.
Yeah, I'm like, how can you even spot that sometimes? I think we see players that are doing better in a game. Like, Gatti probably looks like he gives more shits. I do believe they all give a shit. I would hope so, but it's because he's clearing 50 million headers consecutively. So it's like, oh man, this guy gives a shit. Well, yeah. Kolomuani had nothing to do that game. Nothing. He had one good opportunity at the start of the second half. I knew that might sting us. He shot it too close to the keeper, tried to just bullet this thing. Keeper did well getting out quick, Benitez, but they're picking off scraps up there. The system is failing. We got a lot of work to do, and that's scary when you're talking about that February 20th. but the players not being good enough. I saw this. This is going around a lot. Long list of players that are not Juve quality. This has been coming up a lot, and it's like the same cycle we've all seen. Whether it be Sarri, be Pirlo, into Allegri, all 3 years, it's like this coach is failing. These players aren't good enough. I'm going to be quite honest. We got into this little moment there on the pregame, and Omer kind of brought it up where it's like, well, do you build? Do you build champions? Or do you need them all? Like, where's the split? We can clearly see this roster lacks leadership and experience. And if you're not getting it from the sideline and you're not getting a coach's impact or influence, this team is falling flat on its face from the players' perspective and their contribution to that. I think we can agree there. They don't have enough to pull themselves out, dig themselves out of holes. Like they're not doing it.
Well, the system doesn't help. The system doesn't help. You can get leaders developed by winning, by a consistent system that produces results, gets confidence, gets some of these players rising to the occasion, feeling like how they have ownership. Our leadership has actually only appeared in individual moments, in individual games, where one person's done something spectacular to save our asses.
And my point is, does Napoli have a roster on paper that you would say that's a trophy winning side? I don't believe they do. I don't believe they do, but they're on the verge of it. They could. They could be doing that. If anybody said they have a roster capable of winning trophies, I would say no. I would say absolutely not. So our fundamentals, our basics that we lack in our own game make it worse for these players. It's not the reason that they have their shortcomings. I'm just saying there's nothing to bail them out. I fail to believe that this roster is not capable of doing better. I've felt this way steady the whole year. And I've been adamant about it. And I'm not changing my tune.
Me too. And it's not just Champions League where we struggle. All year we struggled. And I refuse to believe, I am not convinced that Serie A has 16, 17 teams that aren't mediocre, that we cannot outperform with the players we have compared to what they've cobbled together with the budgets they have. Come on.
Exactly. And I'm not buying into this. And again, people that are pointing out the coach's influence and Conte makes a difference, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Of course he does.
Of course he does. So what's the difference that we are seeing with Motta? Motta was brought in to be the guy that can get the most out of little, coming from a team with 31 million in wages. And now all of a sudden to say that this team is not good enough and these players are not, none of them are Juve quality, etc. Fuck, what is Juve quality right now? What is Juve quality right now? We are going to go in circles until you find the right guy. And I don't even know if he knows what he wants, etc. I fail to understand why this guy hasn't adapted or changed or anything to any degree at February 20th. He is seemingly, I'm not going to say 100%, but up until this point, a one-trick pony. Period.
What trick's that?
4-2-3-1, ram it down your throat. That's it. No matter what. Win, draw, loss. Fucking resume, this is it. And no game readings.
The coach's resume does not show me many tricks. It doesn't show me a history of success. And if these players aren't all Juve quality, a couple of issues I have with that thought is, well, they're good enough to beat most of these teams in Serie A and haven't this year. They're better top to bottom than most of these teams in Serie A. And Juve has always had a history of being an idea. an attitude, a philosophy. You know, you put on that shirt and all of a sudden you become better. You put on that shirt and all of a sudden you're part of this machine that is relentless and feared. So there's an enigma and a magic that comes with being a Juventus player. And that's one of the things we're missing, because Juve, if you look down at the rosters, there's been magical individuals, but they've also made heroes out of individuals. Like Ravanelli is a guy I remember as a kid, with his gray hair, the ghost. There's a guy who worked his ass off and became magical. So yes, some players maybe aren't up to quality, but they can become Juventus players with a Juventus mentality, Juventus team spirit.
Now, to Skippy's point, saying you all wanted Motta. Yes, I did. Yes, but the Motta that shuffled through formations, given the opponent he was playing, the Motta that didn't seem hellbent and stubborn on certain individuals, the Motta that actually got more out of what he had. It's like we don't have the same fucking guy. It has been. I have not seen plans set up for the opponents we are facing. We are not seeing that. That's what I loved about him following him last season. I love the fact that it looked like, okay, when he had to play with width, he did it. When he had to get a little more compact, he did. It was like, okay, he was reading things. It seemed like he was proactive. Something we have been anything but. We are reactive, okay? Everything we did yesterday was reactionary. He wasn't ready. He wasn't ready for the moment, and in turn, neither was the team. It was awful. Awful. And
well,
go ahead.
You know my position. I wanted not Allegri, and I didn't really know Motta, and I didn't follow him, so I was excited because I'd heard he's young, he's interesting, he's got ideas, he's got a system that is this interesting combination of all these great systems, and he's the future of soccer, and what he does with the outside wings and what he does with the goalie as the center back, and all these ideas. And he had some success with Bologna, but I've looked at the numbers and I don't call that success. If you're in the bottom 12, 13, 14 teams of Serie A and you're hanging around 8th place, that doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't mean anything to me. So I didn't know the guy. I just wanted a non-Allegri excitement on the field and magic. That's what I just wanted.
We don't even have that. We don't even have that. We don't even, like, I don't know, like the play is dire. The play is dire a lot of the times. There's flashes here and there. But is Motta the only one that could bring that? No, he isn't. That's the honest to God truth. And De Zerbi, I don't want to hear any mentions of De Zerbi ever after what he said about not giving a shit about winning. He just wants to be happy doing his work. Go be happy anywhere else but my club, okay? No. Listen, this is what it's coming down to, is results. Motta, top 4 is an absolute must if they're even going to consider keeping him or staying, like for me. But they might. Who knows? We'll see. But I'm telling you, it's been very, very poor from Thiago Motta so far, and he was exposed yesterday. Oh, and to say De Zerbi over Motta, yeah, I'm not in on De Zerbi. I'll be quite honest, Motta's starting to prove to me to be like a De Zerbi. The one reason I never wanted De Zerbi was because he would lose happily 5-1 if it meant playing his fucking way and not adapting, not changing ever. And I'm talking about that when it comes to one-trick ponies. This is what he believes in. He will never stray from it. Like I said, you'll win a bunch of games 5-1, but you're going to fucking get destroyed in a bunch of them by the same scoreline. His teams on average allow 60-plus goals a season, like 68, 70 goals a season. It's junk, and he'll never change. But now what my fear is with Motta is that he isn't changing. He is not changing at all. He is not reading the players' needs, okay? in terms of getting the best out of them. He's not obviously finding what works best for the group, because if you did, you'd have more win streaks at least to this point of the season of 3 games, hell, even 2 games that we only did 3 times up until this point. So it's just not working. It's not working. What concerns me when we talk about not Juve quality, players, etc., the environment itself. This, and why I fear we could just continuously be going in circles, is because this is not an environment that is going to be building success if we continue down this path. There is no leadership from the top. When it comes to the players, you've got players speaking one tune, management speaking another, your coach speaking another. Like, I don't know. It's like nobody's on really the same page. Some people get it, but maybe they're tied to the past. And you hear Agnelli's name mentioned in like all the goodbyes this year. It's not really adding up. It's not really adding up. It needs to start from the top down, and we haven't gotten it right at the top, in my personal opinion. And, looking for a coach, looking for etc., like, we don't have it dialed in yet. And the reason I say yet is because I need to see balance on that roster. I need to see experienced guys that have won, also helping out. We can't just be running around with a 24-year-old average team and just being like, man, these guys keep falling flat on their face, etc. It's like, well, yeah, like, who's going to pick these guys up? Who's going to pick these guys up? And when you have a coach that is needing picking up on his own accord, we have what we're going through, everybody. So, brutal, pathetic, all this, yeah. But surprising and shocking, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. There's a lot of work to be done. From the office down. Go ahead, Paulo.
It's been this way all year. So
yeah.
You see it on the field, and it's the same old story, game in, game out, more or less. That's the consistency we have. And if you look at that laundry, to your point, if you look at that laundry list of issues I rattled off, everybody, those issues are shared from top to bottom. So replacing Motta might solve a handful of them, and it might not. There's issues top to bottom, and there's too many at once.
I think they got to start up top. And like I said a while ago, when you make a change from now, and if you have to bail on these ideas or this plan for 3 years that they had with Motta, etc., make your change and start it from the top down. I need to know who's the guy coming in. What are his connections to Juventus? What is his vision? And go from there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Let's go from there. Now, storm the barn. Let's fire away. Let's fire away. Because, like I said, top 4, that's the big one. That's the critical objective for Thiago. We get top 4, we win Coppa Italia. Do we sack Motta? Do we personally? Does the club? The club, this is the thing. I don't know what the club's intentions are. I hear that, I hear everything. I hear that, no, they've been looking, they've been concerned for a while now and trying to get ideas. I've heard that it's been decided he's going to get sacked. I've heard that they have no intentions of sacking him and they're going to stay the course. Who knows? So this question is literally on us, Paulo. Your opinion. You get top 4, you win Coppa Italia, do you sack him?
I would like to see a different coach. But I want to know what the vision is from the top. Like you said, I want to know what's going on, because I don't want a De Zerbi in there. I don't want some other hipster coach. I don't want somebody's no who maybe gets us off to a good start and then has a heart attack halfway through the season and he's gone. Like, it depends who you have and your vision. But I would look at this year, regardless of those results Alex Juve is pointing out, and I would say, I can't do another year like this. I can't do another year consistently with all these issues, especially the ones I'm seeing on the pitch every game.
Yeah. For me, it's tough. It really, a lot of these issues and concerns I've had all year need to go away during this run. So you get top 4, you win Coppa Italia. I need a good chunk of those issues to fade from here to season's end. Because if you shithouse your way into top 4 and you're unconvincing, you still can't get a game plan right, or you can't adapt mid-game, and Coppa Italia, one-off games, like, is it all shithousery? Then I'm not sold. Comes down to all the measurables I hold personally to a coach. It's what it is. So right now, all I'm going to say is I don't know. I don't know.
I didn't know we're allowed to say I don't know. Paulo, yes or no?
Like how I did that? Yeah. No, I don't know. I'm leaning towards...
I hear you. You don't have to say yes or no. I'm leaning
towards the axe. If, again, all those things don't change.
I just can't do this for another year. It's the same shit, game in, game out. Why think it's going to be different next year? I have that laundry list. Some of those things could change, like the team gets older, more experience added, less injuries. Bremer solves everything.
Yeah. Everybody, reminder, get the likes up. Get the likes up. Keep firing Storm the Barns. We got some time here. I get a feeling an offer for Di Gregorio will come in. How much would you sell him for, or is he unsellable for you? Di Gregorio is one of the bright spots, and like I said, he kept that from probably getting really ugly. And to be fair, in the first half, actually Gatti did as well. But Di Gregorio, is there a price tag where you would sell Paolo?
I think the offers have come in, and I think they've been something like 40-ish or whatever. I wouldn't sell him. I'd love to see him be a little better with his feet, because I think he's got feet. But he's made big saves, and he's a shot stopper. His positioning is almost perfect. He could maybe come out and get on these a bit earlier when they come in, but I love him. I think he's a wonderful goalie. He's been a steal, and I'd love to see him with the club for a few years. Yeah.
I don't want to see him sold. Unsellable?
No one's unsellable.
Perrin is very strong, and you could maybe look elsewhere, but you also have this guy that you picked up on a steal that's right up there with the absolute best for Italian goalkeepers right now. It's got to be higher than 55 million for me to think about it.
Oh, yeah.
Got to be higher than 55 for me to even think about it. That's all I'm going to say. Besides Gatti, McKennie, name 3 guys you had the feeling that... Oh, so we kind of covered that in terms of who we thought. Like, I just think when your system fails you, it makes a lot of guys look piss poor. And this was where we got into Napoli, and we got into them, like, they're just their roster, like, just overachieving in general. We are underachieving. So everything's gonna be heightened and look like guys just flat out don't give a shit. But I'll tell you what, it goes back to Ram, Yildiz. Like, your main guys need to go. I spent how much time on the pregame show propping up and hyping up Thuram, because I do believe it, that he offers something nobody else does in the middle. And for me, he is crucial to any success we have in the middle of the pitch. But again, cramps, fever, whatever. Motta will just give us the runaround as to why everybody isn't playing, and it is what it is. I think the discussion is over. Digre is a world-class keeper. I saw people hating on him yesterday. He literally kept it from becoming a bloodbath and kept it in the game. He's a beast. People were ripping on Di Gregorio? What? Man, we got way bigger fish to fry than Digre. I mean, that bobble on that one goal, but like, Jesus, ripping on Digre?
Remember where he came from, he was busy. He was blocking shots, stopping shots all day. So ideally with Juve, and you saw it in the beginning of the season, he wasn't very busy. So to get ready for when you do need to make a big stop, he, for the most part, has been fantastic. And now that he's busier, I think he'll only get better.
Yeah. You only play 4-2-3-1 when you have to accommodate a specialist, number 10, in your squad like Dybala, etc. We don't have that type of player. Why does Motta insist on the formation? You know, I say this all the time, formations are very, very similar. There's a lot that are very, very similar, and they adapt in game. The adapting is what you do based on the players and the profiles you have in there. A 4-2-3-1 is not far from a 4-3-3. It's very, very damn similar. But it's what we're asking certain guys to do within that system where the breakdown is for me, and spacing. That's the biggest thing more than anything. You can call it a 4-2-3-1 and play Thuram, Locatelli, McKennie, but it could very well be a 4-3-3 just as easily. Just, are you going to advance one? It could become a 4-1-4-1. Like, they're all pretty damn close. It just comes down to what roles you're asking them to do. So, him being insistent on this, not really surprising, really. But the question mark yesterday comes with the changes and the subs and the delay and reading that game. Seeing that you're getting run, how do you not get flashbacks of Stuttgart just running wild on us when they come out of the second half like that? And it's like, okay, you didn't pull the trigger, but like, get going here. Get some fresh legs. You could see guys are struggling. They're gassed. Like, let's get some help out there. Like, they need you. They need you, Motta. And you didn't do your best.
We haven't played a formation well all year, I don't think. So call it whatever you want. We're too loose. We're not compact enough. We don't move as a group. So whatever the formation is, all I know is that we haven't mastered one. And you should be able to watch any game, and until they have to make a specific change where you can physically see it with your eyes happening, there should be something that's very obvious, very compact, and force the other team to figure it out.
Yeah.
We've been way too loose, way too wide.
I see this comment in here. Alberto, Motta didn't get the players he wanted. He didn't want Nico, Chico, which are the positions that make his system in this summer window. I am going to strongly, strongly rebuttal this with the fact that Nico was added so damn late in the window that there's no way. Motta even said he was actively talking with Giuntoli throughout the Mercado. And furthermore, he's got more in his first year than any manager over this turbulent 4 years running. He got more than Sarri, Pirlo, and Max in 3 years. And as far as Chico goes, Orsolini or Chico. So Orsolini was the be-all, end-all for his system? No. I just can't get behind that. Not to pick on you, but that's your thoughts or opinions, but I strongly disagree. I'll leave it at that. Suarez, Cambiaso is much more important to Juve than Yildiz and will be almost impossible to replace. There are probably 6 to 7 top wingbacks in world football, and Cambiaso is one of them. Thoughts? Oh, all right. So you got to sell one of them. Is it Yildiz or Cambiasso?
Paulo,
Basically
go.
what we're getting at with this one, Sweaty.
That left back position is a real difficult one to get right, and especially to have depth at. I'll say that.
I do not sell Yildiz.
No, I don't want to. I think I'm
I know.
recognizing how difficult that spot is.
I know. I can't. I think there's an incredible talent there. I don't know how much, like, I feel like there's so much more on top of Yildiz. Like, if I look at the jump even from last year to this year in Yildiz game is pretty damn big. If we're talking about Cambiasso, like, how much more of a jump is there? Is what's there enough to say goodbye to the other? In the end, what it would really come down to is the details, because there is a number that if someone came in with Yildiz, I'd probably say, see you later, and keep Cambiasso, and I wouldn't be upset about it. Like, if that's what it came down, if we saw some crazy money that you could rebuild and bolster this squad from one sale, I would do it. But
And I think it only depends as well on your depth. Like, we realized at the back line that we didn't have enough depth. So if your replacement for Cambiasso is decent, and let's say Yildiz is playing in a spot that makes the most of his ability, then that's a different conversation.
Yeah. We got Ori coming in here. And again, reminder, everybody, get the likes up. I feel like managers always build the tactics, formation system, but also the culture. With all these being taught to the players, I don't think the guys are to blame when it does not work. So he puts tactics, formation, system, and culture all to the manager. Thoughts on that, Paulo?
Absolutely.
That's a big part of it. Yeah, I mean, how many managers like really tie into culture though? I feel like the old school
The
guys.
best ones do.
I feel like the old school guys are more into that, and not all of them. So it's like, it's one of those things, right? Because like, I feel like a lot of these modern day managers, whatever, don't really do a whole bunch for culture. Like, I don't know, we're talking about Palladino, we're talking about De Cherby and stuff. Like, I don't see those guys as being big culture guys, you know?
And also,
and I stand firm. You make a change, give me a guy with a serious CV. Like, it's time to get serious. Give me a serious manager.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm done with us being like this fucking science experiment.
No.
Where you like, oh, let's try and put this in with this. It's like, no.
Doesn't happen.
I'm done with the science experiment, for fuck's sakes. Like, let's get our shit together and let's move. So no more first cracks. Like, Pirlo should have never been hired on a first gig. Love the guy, should have never been hired as a first gig. And then with Max, set the standards. The standards should have been set because they started sliding from year one and they went down. But the big variable there that was on the flip side that I think any manager would have suffered from was the fact that we couldn't actually properly build a team because we were trying to make the cuts that we dove into big time over these past couple of years, because Exor said it's time to get your books right on your own accord. Here comes your last bond. Here you go. It's not a serious window to only bring in Timothy Weah 3 years into a manager's stay. So a lot of shit going on, but bring me a serious manager. Bring me somebody serious with a CV. Seeing that it is either top four or Europa League for Juve, how confident are you guys? Well, we got to talk about this because this is the major objective facing Thiago Motta. And for many of us, we believe that if he doesn't hit this, he should be gone. But there are others that believe he should still be kept around, to each their own. How confident are we, though, on a scale of 1 to 5, that he reaches top four? Paulo?
1 to 5. Well, if I believe in a wise man named Skanga once said, all the other teams will fall apart and show that they're really shit, I would say that the chances
He also had
finishing
3-1 Juve yesterday as his prediction.
that could mean that he could be right to an extent, and we could continue in this form and hold on to a fourth spot. I think the chances are maybe 3 out of 5 of holding on to a fourth spot.
Yeah, I'm at about a 3. We got 2 from Justin, 2 from Cugino Eddie, 2.5 there. Yeah, I'm at about a 3, right, and maybe 2.5 to be smacked down in the middle, because I'm not getting this confidence out of this team. We keep shooting ourselves in the foot time and time again, and I don't see the signs that it is pushing forward. There is growth. There is progress. Like I'm just not getting that feeling. It all feels very similar to when we saw cracks developing early on, but we were willing to give it time because everything was so new. Well, fast forward to February 20th, and now it's just downright annoying. And it's time to get shit in order, and it's not happening. So, yeah, we're going to be pissed off. We're going to be frustrated. That's the reality. That's the nature of the beast. And Thiago Motta may be a little bit shell-shocked. We talked about this a lot, too, and it's like, where's the Thiago Motta from earlier on the season with all the pep in his step and that zip and that attitude, etc.? Well, I think reality hit hard when you draw 13 friggin' games and everybody's like, where's the damn wins? And he's like, hold on a second, we're not losing. Guess what, buddy? You're at Juve. We don't give a shit about draws. And he's like, oh, okay, like, shit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Welcome to the big leagues, man. Yeah. Draws don't cut it. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. What do you specifically think the ultimate consequences are for the squad if they miss top 4? Like, based on finances, who do you specifically think is sold? I think we're heading for that regardless of what happens. I think you're going to see Cambiasso and Vlahovic dealt. Whether we miss out on Champions League, sponsorship, when sponsorship hits, will also factor into this because it might soften the blow. I do not expect Yildiz to leave unless it's on his accord. So as far as outside of that, I would expect extra little moves, like I think Mbangula would go on a pure capital deal. Maybe, just maybe, if, depends on who the offers come in for, but you've got some guys that could get you some capital. You might see maybe even Gatti sold. Like, I'm just spitballing, but it depends where they want to sit. How far in the green do they want to go? Is Elkin actually thinking about selling? Like, there's so many unknowns that change this. But I stand firm on what I said. The club, even Giuntoli, has done enough to get on the right side of things. If you're going to start to say goodbye to guys you don't want to, step in and actually act as ownerships that give a fuck. Paulo?
Yeah. Mbangula, if were to move him for 15 or 20, I think that'd be a loss. you basically exhausted your youth system right now, so you don't have a bunch of young guys to bring in and become the new collateral. You're going to have to replace these guys, and if you're replacing them with strong players, you're going to end up spending more than what you're selling them for. Well, in the case of Bangula, I think the obviously Vlahovic is gone, and I think Cambiaso is probably gone in the summer. I think you need to hold on to what you have and add to it. And then I guess if there is a coaching change, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Can we sell Ferrero and scam Avino? You know what? Those temps, I told you, get rid of them. Get rid of them. Get me somebody at the top. All right. Are there any of the on-loan players that we lose the right to buy? It's done for Nico. Chico Gonzalez has a release clause that we get first crack on, and apparently the loan of this year, the expensive loan, 10 mil all in, goes towards that release clause. So we're actually paying 20 at season's end to bring him in. If you're talking about the players we just brought in, we bought Alberto Costa. He's bought. Lloyd Kelly, obligation. Vega and Kolomuani are the two that we will look at negotiations for. All right. There you go. Yeah, that's not fair. Berto Elkan has given plenty to Juve as the whole Agnelli family. I get it. But I'm talking about this brief period of time. They put the bond in there. It never covered all the debts. These guys have been working their ass off. And at the end of the day, what we're seeing is not good from Juve. So if you do, in fact, care so much about this family heirloom pretty much, okay? And I will remind everybody, the family is battling over assets all over the place. There's a reason that beautiful tradition at Villar Perosa hasn't happened for 2 years, and it's because of the petty squabbles that they're having amongst a family. I don't want Juve taking a back seat and becoming this fucking science experiment. You either care or you don't. Right now, this is a critical summer we're going to be entering for Juventus. Flat out. And if it's the difference in him saying, you know what, you've shown so much work to get it to this point, to where we could potentially be from 342 million in debt to 32 at the end after taxes of this season. You know what? I don't want to see key guys leave at this point. So I'm going to step in and we're going to help and assist. Or find that damn sponsor. Find the damn sponsor. Like, it's wild to me. They still haven't done that.
And we'll see how they react after this year. Depending on where this year goes, we'll see what Elkan's position is. We know he likes Formula One. So we'll see how and the way in which they reset, depending on what happens.
Yeah. And a lot of thoughts about Elkan in general versus Andrea Agnelli, and that's just the reality of it, man. Elkan has always been in the back, distanced from Juventus, and there's a whole theory on everything that's gone on now and separating from anything related to Andrea Agnelli. And yes, it stems with family shit in the background. I'm not even going to touch on that. That's like a whole week-long special, everybody, okay? That's not just like a one-episode thing we dive into. But yeah, this is where we're at. What are we going to do? How confident are we? Where do you go from here? You have players speaking one thing. You have coach speaking another. What I found interesting was around Locatelli's words. Because Locatelli addressed it as a moment. He says, we are in a bad moment. This is coming off 4 straight wins, by the way, that people are trying to even tell me, like, it is getting better. It's not getting better. So Locatelli says we are in a moment we need to break out of. And I felt like he was directly speaking to the fact that they have no consistency in terms of attitude, approach, etc. Thiago Motta comes out and says, Oh, he said that? That we threw away qualification? I don't believe we did. And I stand behind everything I did and etc. And it's like, oh, this is interesting. No regrets, they said. He goes, none. I have none. I would make all the same decisions I made the same. We had opportunities in this game. We played a fine game. We didn't throw away qualification. We simply weren't better. That was weird. That was fucked up. It was fucked up. I don't really know. Like,
Motta talks a lot of shit. Honestly, I don't even want to listen to him anymore after games. He talks a lot of shit. So
it's funny because you have
I don't want to hear it from him.
You have your coach telling you that, no, we're not in a moment. Like, it's fine. I still have full faith in everything we're doing. We're pushing forward. And you have players now actively saying we're in a moment. Like, so what he thinks is good or whatever, just feeding lines, whatever. Guys are like, no, we're in a moment and we need to dig ourselves out. And they don't sound that confident that they are. So that's why I'm at like a 2.5 on top 4. It was very strange. It was bizarre. Even Timothy Weah coming out speaking a certain way that was completely contradicting to the vibes that the coach was going to put out. And maybe he just wants to try and keep some type of calm on the outside looking in. And of course, we're not involved behind the scenes, but it was very strange. It was very, very strange to see. We've seen it before, and it never ended well before when you see that. And you see that type of distance in reads to the games and to the performances, etc. So all I got to say is, and I mean, there's a million storm the barns here, but, and again, we tackled some of them because Matt was talking about the post-match comments, etc. Look, you guys, this was ugly. Flat out.
It was a shame. A real shame.
It was a shame. It was an absolute shame because we should have gone through, but that word should means sweet fuck all in football.
PSV took the opportunity and they're going to move on. We gave away our opportunity. We gave it away.
We need to smarten up. And I just, like I said, speaking to the roster and speaking to the coach, I think you just have too much in terms of needs. They need the guidance, but he needs the guidance. It's too much. It's too much. Project, yes, project. Science fucking project. Our beloved Juve. But look, we got to continue on. We're going to have Serie A action return on the weekend. Yep. Has to be a win. And everybody keeps saying the same thing. Reaction. Like, where's your reaction? What reaction?
We do. Yeah, we react to losing after we win.
Yeah, everything's reaction. We're never proactive. Like, it's like you never know what the hell this... Again, going back to this game, halftime. Anybody that's watched the sport for a decent amount of time knows PSV is going to come out hard. Like, get ready. And if you need a set of fresh legs, get ready to combat it. And fucking no chance. We want to talk about this, though. This was my finishing thing I wanted to talk about. That really bothers me. I feel the approach is ignorant in how we always approach like European matches in general. And now you're seeing more and more, and the list hits us. Well, Lyon, Porto, Ajax, like, etc. Like, we are bringing this Serie A game over there, and it's almost arrogant to me in how you just don't change to these other teams and how they're going to come at you and how they're going to play. And it's like we have this arrogance about our game that isn't even working back home. And I felt that way yesterday. I felt like it was very, very arrogant. And all the Italian teams got slapped. To be fair, Atalanta had opportunities that could have gone different, but they conceded like crazy and ultimately was their demise. But what do you think about the approach to European play in general?
S- another another topic for another show. Serie A has a lot of identity issues, financial opportunity issues, branding issues, quality of play, quality of facilities, and I think we stubbornly play through the series, the season at home, and then when we go on the international stage, it's night and day, and it's not looking good for Serie A. And I'll give Inter credit for stepping up over the past few years and showing representing Serie A to some extent. But I don't know what the issue is, but there's some real disconnect between whatever's happening in our little world on the boot and the rest of the game everywhere else.
I won't give those shitheads credit until they show me how magically all this debt has gone without doing the work into it. Yeah, that's right, Forza Inter. No credit. No credit. Listen, we got to smarten up, and we've been saying this all along. Is it going to happen? I don't know. All I'm going to tell all of you is what I've been saying for how long now? I've been going one game at a time. Okay? Skanga's been sitting in this room that's been ablaze for months, and he's comfortable. He just doesn't sweat, and he's drinking his cup of tea, and he's telling me, it's all good, it's fine. I don't think it is. I'll be flat out honest. I don't think it is. I think Paulo's with me. Lou is definitely with me. And we just got to take it one game at a time and one half at a time and see what this team's going to bring. As far as making any decisions into the future, that's going to be up to the club. But I think ambitions are going to be shown this summer. Because year zero, it was year zero. It was year zero. But I just don't think any progress was made. So maybe next year might be year zero again with somebody else. We just have to wait and see. This was a tough one. Really, really ugly result. Ugly performance. One of the worst halves of football I've seen or experienced. And that's saying a lot. But it really was.
And one thing,
an epic collapse, epic breakdown, and Motta has even more work to do now. And so do the players. Where do we go from here in closing thoughts? How would you move forward if it was in your control? From a game perspective, approaching Serie A, players you lean on, etc.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what Motta has to address that in him as a manager of a group of men who have to play a game. But I would say that what I've struggled with since yesterday's result is all those fans who go to the road games and sing, and you can hear the Juventini singing louder than the home fans. All those fans who watch on TV, listen to it on the radio, follow it online, fans who skip work or who take a day off or who have Juve as a way to love life and enjoy the game, all those fans deserve way more than they've had this year. And it's been a very difficult year. And Motta and the organization, and to the players, I suppose, have to show in these last few games that the fans deserve more and that they're capable of giving the fans something to reward them for their passion and their commitment and their expense and their sanity.
Yeah. And for me, it starts here. I don't give a shit how hard your training sessions are. If they're to the point where these guys can't go hard in the games when it actually fucking counts, you're doing something wrong. So sorting all that out, make sure your guys that are on the pitch can give that 150% and lean on your better players. Okay? Stop force feeding the ones that aren't, and they need to go to the back of the line and work themselves up. Whether he came in for 60 million euros or 50 million euros or 20, I don't give a shit. Let the pitch do the talking, because so far Thiago Motta has not listened to the one thing that matters the most, and that's the pitch. Let the pitch do the talking to make your decisions easier. I don't give a shit if Cope Miners gives the best hugs. Thiago, he can sit. All right? These two have a love affair like friggin' Rabiot and Allegri, and I'm sick of it. Okay? Let the pitch do the talking. That's what counts. Yildiz, get back in there. Thuram is critical. And let's fucking get these points and qualify for top 4. I've had enough. All right?
Yep.
And on that note, the news is quiet today, other than absolute turmoil that media is going to try to create and fire everybody up. But like I said, take everything with a grain of salt. We'll rock through that together leading into this weekend's matchup, and then we'll be back with the preview show and, of course, a watch along. But as always, no matter what, we've been through worse. We'll get through this, and we will rise again. You can never kill Juventus. No matter what, fino alla fine, forza Juventus. You guys in the chat, absolute best. Drop a like on your way out. And, hey, it's out of our hands. It's out of our control, so don't let that drive you crazy. Enjoy the rest of your weeks. We'll be back, like I said, on the weekend and see what we bring. One half at a time. One game at a time. Let's see, everybody. Ciao, ciao.